Good morning, good morning. What a difference compared to yesterday. Did something happen last night? Did you spend time together? Did you get to know each other better? Yesterday when we started, it was really quiet in the audience. And now it's like, yeah, you know each other, no? You connected. And I think for those who joined yesterday afternoon, the visit of La Biomixta, and then afterwards, it was nice, no? Yes, yes, it was. And did you hear the lightning and the thunder last night? Who heard? No? You missed something. It was a spectacular sky. Yeah? And we had to rush and run through the raindrops to get home dry. We didn't succeed. Anyway, let's a bit summarize what was discussed yesterday. I wrote down the word reworld. You still remember who said that? Lisbeth, yeah. Wow, this is a good audience. It's not always the case with my students, but so yes. And she also used the word reimagine. I think we need to reimagine what kind of economics we want to teach. And then I'm referring to rethinking economics, which was Sam who was referring to that. Well, to a lot more, but I'm not going to say everything that everyone said. But so we need to reimagine what kind of economics we teach. We also need to reimagine who and how we teach economics. I think Gustavo made a remark about that. It's not because I've got my PhD that I'm now a very good professor and teacher. So he made that remark, and I think it was an interesting topic. So we discussed assessment of students. We discussed assessments of professors, and maybe that we have to revise that a bit. And it was all framed into, okay, what's the purpose of our economy? And then we had, of course, Kate with the donut economics, like kind of vision where we could work towards. No shortfall, no overshoot, bringing everybody on the donut and be there. Not only the purpose of our economy was questioned, but also the purpose of our universities. So why are we there? What's our license of being here and doing this kind of things for youngsters? So, and then we discussed that we need to develop student skills, knowledge, competences, and then Guya referred to the Green Comp of the European Commission as a kind of instrument developed in the early 2022, which is something we can use. And Olivia made the remark that we have to be careful in how, who, and what we teach, remembering that there is something like the decolonization process that takes place, and not only of our curricula, but also of perhaps the institution and the teachers and so on and so forth. Also important. And I would like to end a very brief summary that I'm giving, because there are three very interesting people here sitting next to me, so I want to introduce them quickly. That we have to think about conditions for transformative education, Lillian. So important. And yesterday when we visited La Biomixta of Koen van Mechelen, the Belgian artist, he was making that reference to a cage. And I'm going to read the quote that I took a picture of yesterday. Because we're in a prison, huh? Remember? And maybe we should, breaking the cage is setting energy free for future generations. So I think we should perhaps break the cage of universities to set energy free for future generations. And so that's what we're going to do today, no? Yeah? Okay. Let's move to today's conversation. And it's going to be an interesting one, and I'm happy to introduce three very inspiring people next to me. I will start with, because given my age, I'm still giving the floor first to women, if I'm allowed to. So Renate Wesselink. There's a very nice introduction of all these people on the website. I'm going to shorten it a bit, and I'm going to say that her main ambition is, well, she's an assistant professor at the Wageningen University in research, mother of 2 kids. And she's teaching tomorrow 5 courses, by the way. No. Okay, not tomorrow. Her main ambition is to show that by embracing individuals' leadership capacities and teams' creativity within and across organizations, the capacity to transform as business, organization, sector, or society will increase. She really wants to work on that very, and she's been doing it for a while, and she will still continue doing it for a while. So, Renate Wesselink, applause for her. Next to me, sitting, is Vivek Gilani. Can I say what you said to me? No, I'm not going to say it. You can? So I said, it's a bit Gilani. Is it Italian? And he said, no, but I use it in New York when I'm being threatened. Then I say, hey, I'm a Gilani. Then people get scared. Vivek is a lifetime Ashoka Fellow and an environmental engineer who co-founded and works at Sea Balance. It's an employee-owned collective practicing the principles of sociocracy and with a max to minimum salary ratio of 1:4. I like that when I read that. So the whole discussion about, okay, how much more will a CEO make compared to the lowest paid? And so he's also director of the Fair Conditioning Program, which seeks to make sustainable cooling and responding to heat stress endured by the most marginalized communities in India. And next, your neighbor country, Pakistan, is suffering. I mean, a lot of countries are suffering. So a warm applause for Vivek. And last but not least, and I met him upon arrival here. Huh? Actually, I met his wife first, but Stephen Sterling, Emeritus Professor of Sustainable Education at the Sustainable Earth Institute, University of Plymouth in the UK. He has worked in environmental and sustainability education in the academic and NGO fields nationally and internationally. Widely published, your research interest is in ecological thinking, system change, and transformative learning at individual and institutional level to help meet the challenges of accelerating the educational response to the sustainability agenda and crisis. Thank you for being here with us. The topic of this morning's keynote is learning about, for, and as sustainability. And you've been asked, or you will be shown, like we did yesterday, a Menti, menti.com with a different code as yesterday. So you can or scan the QR codes with your phones from a distance. How amazing technology is. If not, it's 8480-2683. And there are 7 questions to choose from. And they appear on screen now. Do you manage to get in? You see the questions also on the Menti? Is it working? Yeah, just checking that it's going. Okay, fine. So how can system change? First question. As a response to the sustainability agenda, be fostered within and by higher education institutions? Second question. What do change makers need to empower them to make the change? Third question. Why are universities responding so slowly to this need for change? Fourth question. What role do disciplines have in attempts to deal with complexity in learning for and as sustainability? Fifth question. What key challenges do institutions face when they aim to make transdisciplinary learning possible? Sixth question. Are there good examples of higher education institutions that transformed their learnings and doings to an as sustainability mode? And last question, can a whole institution approach ever fail? Sorry, I would make it, can a whole institution approach succeed? But depends how you put it. Okay, let's see how you're voting. Yeah, they're all interesting questions, of course. So far, it's 5, 6, and 2. We'll give it 15 more seconds. So if you still want to influence the voting. Okay, so we're gonna start with 5, 6, and 2, and then I know that the others are also interesting, so let's see what it is. 5, 6, and 2. Okay. What key challenges do institutions today face when they aim to make transdisciplinary learning possible? How can the structure of a higher education institute help to implement this? And what challenges might this structure pose? So it's structure of the higher education institution you work for. What are the challenges? And probably you're going to refer to where you spend your time or teach. Who wants to start? And you need to take a mic for that. So what are the challenges? Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the, and we also mentioned it, it was also mentioned yesterday, we are in an existing system and we need to somehow break out that system. But I think we can pick up these challenges and face these challenges as individual, maybe as a team or as a community within the university, and start small experiments. For example, we in Wageningen University, they started the Transformational Learning Hub. Teachers who feel connected with the theme or feel some kind of relationship or want to learn about it, they are in a community and they share ideas and thoughts every Wednesday morning, once a month or something like that. So this is, of course, it's an add-on on your normal duties, but you learn a lot and you improve yourself in that sense. So I think these kinds of small experiments or small pilots, or how to make a first step towards a change, I think that should be one way out of this system we're in, and we're all in, and it's at the same time we need to do the system and meet the criteria of the system. But on the other hand, we also feel the need to do something new. I think these small initiatives, or I call it pilots or experiments, I think these could be helpful to at least break out the system, or to show what can happen in when you take the initiative as an employee of a university.
Hey, thank you. That's a very clear answer. Steve.
Yeah. I've got a slight issue with the question to begin with. And that's what academics do, isn't it? They start questioning the question.
Okay.
It's just that, they aim to make transdisciplinary learning possible. Well, that's quite an achievement in itself, because before you ever get to transdisciplinarity, you have to maybe first do multidisciplinarity, then interdisciplinarity. Transdisciplinarity that's a spectrum of integration, if you like, and that's the ultimate goal to transdisciplinarity, where you actually start dissolving disciplines so much that you get something new emerging from that interaction. So I think it'd be great to even begin to get disciplines to talk to each other and work together in the first place. So I think we need to not run before we can walk, if you like, on this. Having said that, there is an urgency in the whole situation, and I think this is part of the issue now, that we've got these huge issues facing us, and education as a whole is slow. I made this joke some years ago that education is a slow learner, because it's not responding quickly enough to the challenges. But I would agree with Renate. At my own university, I'm retired now, although no one lets me. And we did like a 10-year experiment at the University of Plymouth, trying to embed sustainability as a key ethos and practice in the university, with a degree of success. Not entirely. When I left, it was still slightly frustrating we hadn't done more. But I agree with Renate entirely that you start small, you start where you are. And surprisingly good things can be done, despite all, sometimes. And if you can start getting buy-in from senior management, then you can go further. And I can talk about the change process later if that's of interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. I actually have some perspectives. First of all, let me predicate my what I'm going to say based on the fact that my context is not the European context, so I might say things that might not apply. So please do allow for that. And also, I'm not really from an academic institution. We are more in bridging the gap between all the knowledge, all the things we know, and the doing between knowledge and action. So in response to this, I think there are some things that I'd like to focus on, especially with the interaction with society. I think we've talked a lot about how transdisciplinarity works within the academic system, but maybe where I can add some ideas is in interaction with society. So one thing we've realized, at least in the Indian context, is when teachers have to break out of the cage of the academic prison and engage with lived experiences, with situated communities that are placed in a certain context and time and place, they don't have the time very often. The curriculum is so overloaded with other kind of industrial knowledge that you need to sort of dump into your children, that they don't have time for experience actually. So to consider the other, to consider other contexts, to develop empathy is a big challenge. And I see it as a big challenge even here in Europe, where time has a very linear sort of conception here. So time is this bank account that you're born with. Every morning you have a certain bank account, and everything you do subtracts. And I think we need a different conception of time if we are going to have to break out of this prison of time, because it always comes up as one good reason. The second thing that I see is a bit of a challenge when we work with different disciplines. I don't know where on the spectrum we are. Maybe we are not even close to transdisciplinarity, but there is a tension, and in some cases even a conflict between the hard sciences and the interpretive sciences. There is a sense of this assumed superiority of the hard sciences, and there isn't really much of a humility that we found in the practitioners of the hard sciences, and maybe a recognition that science comes up with facts and truths abstracted from lived experiences. And I'm quoting Sheila Jasanoff here. She says that meaning comes from embedded experiences actually, and what societies need is actually meaning, sense making of the scientific facts. Until they become truths, they will not really be considered as things to live by. I think this is an important thing that is required for transdisciplinarity. And finally, I would say that maybe more interaction between the different student types in say an architecture studio context, for example, where you can have the social norms being upheld by the students of political science, of sociology, and they're challenging the solutions being proposed by the architecture students, for example. I think this kind of transdisciplinarity, sort of mimicking or creating a microcosm of it in the student environment for certain projects would be one way in which you can address this. Some ideas.
Wow. So I think we're going to spend the whole morning and not 1 hour, because there are a lot of... Okay. Any feedback from what you heard?
Yeah, I want to add also with if it's transdisciplinary or not, but we have the opportunity for students to do challenge-based learning, and it's outside the curriculum. It's completely voluntary, but students really like it and they do it, and it costs them a lot of time. So students feel the need that they want to do something meaningful. They learn a lot in their more disciplinary studies, and they really want to apply it and solve some problems. But not all students. Some really want to stay in the fundamental department, and that's okay. So, but those who really want to contribute to society, they want to solve, for example, they work on the urban greenhouse challenge in a multidisciplinary team. They work together. They completely on their own in the whole learning trajectory. There's no guidance, so they learn a lot, but they do not get any credit for it. But they put their time in it because they really learn something, and they can apply what they have learned in the more in the disciplines, and that's what they like. And also to work together with their peers, they learn a lot from that. So in that sense, also start offering these initiatives, and students will make use of it to really make sense. And they really say that now I'm doing something meaningful, and it becomes I know why I have all this knowledge, and I know what I can do with it, and makes them feel them better in the end. That's nice.
Yeah, so I mean, just about all sustainability issues are issues of complexity. So they can't be understood sufficiently through one lens. You need multiple lenses, which are multiple disciplines. And then if you've got melding between the disciplines, then you get an even better view, if you like. So, you know, that's good and bad from a university point of view. Bad because they have to respond to it, and it's difficult for them sometimes. Good because it's actually in tune with what we need. And I think what the students often realize, even in their gut, that they need to understand these issues in a broader, more holistic way. One thing that universities can do, and one or two are, well, more than one or two, is taking issues in the community, you know, outside the walls of the university, and identifying those as key issues for that locality, whatever it is, you know, social justice or biodiversity or climate change, whatever it is. And that issue carries through from year to year to year. So you actually get an evolving research program going through the years. It's not just buttoned up in one year and then something different the next year. I think that's a really interesting idea. So you actually get an evolving relationship with the community, and the community learns and the university learns at the same time around these key issues for that locality.
Who in the audience works for universities who have a lot of, or some projects with the community where they are based? That's a good sign. Breaking out of the cage of the university, linking with the community. But you spoke about the sense of urgency. It's urgent. Okay, we have the prison of time, but can we speed it up? Can we go faster? Should we go faster? And how do we do that?
Okay, so, you know, you can see from my grey hairs, I'm getting on a bit. I've been in this field for a long, long time, more years than I care to remember, really. But, you know, for years, people like me were tolerated, if you like, by higher education, and you know, sort of patted on the head and say, you're doing a good job, but don't actually affect what we do in the middle, in the center of our policy. So there was a, you know, there's a community internationally. You see the same people at the conferences each time, and you talk about stuff. But meantime, the mainstream goes on its own sweet way. What I think what's happening, because of the urgency and because people in the street, you know, ordinary people, if you like, are realizing there's something not right here. There's some massive issues coming on. You know, just talked about Pakistan just briefly as an issue. This evidence is shouting us in the face that we need to do something quickly to change course. And what I find quite heartening, even if it's late in the day, is the higher education community is waking up. It is late in the day. So, you know, we had Agenda 21 in 1992 with the Earth Summit, and we had Chapter 36 all about reorienting education towards sustainable development, but not much happened. Now, last May, we had the World Higher Education Conference by UNESCO in Barcelona, big conference. All that was about rethinking education in terms of sustainable development. I can't quite remember the title, but that was a huge UNESCO conference. In 2 weeks' time, we've got, at the behest of the United Nations Secretary General, we have Transforming Education Summit, TES. Check it out, TES. And that's all about transforming education. I'm not sure they'll get it exactly right, but I mean, it's a big discussion, and it's actually it'll be involving countries from all over the world on, you know, how can we rethink education given these multiple crises. So you know, whereas people like me were tolerated for years, now people are saying, oh, this is important, we need to do something. So you know, this is quite an exciting time. And when you say how can it be speeded up, the answer is you know, use these mandates which are coming out at international level and national level, even local level. Use them and use them as leverage. You know, use mandates as leverage to get better action, and make sure that when a university says it's doing this stuff, make sure it does. You know, we spent 10 years hounding the senior management. You know, you've got these statements, what are you doing about it? You know, it's a bit of a game, really, but that's how you make progress. You know, you make a nuisance of yourselves, really.
Thank you. Use the mandate as leverage to change.
Okay, perspective on time, again. I think only certain amount of speeding up can really happen. I think the truth about time is that it always wins. You cannot beat time. Uh, However, I do feel that if instead of looking at time for each of the practitioners and how we can speed it up for each of the practitioners, maybe we need to get to a state where there are many more practitioners. So say if you have a department in a city, you will have some sort of sense of how many firefighters you need for a certain community to be able to address crises. And I think we have very few people who see this struggle for a more just, more ecologically balanced, a safe world. We are still a minority, and I think we need much more of this becoming a non-negotiable value in our education. I think we're still leaving it to the choice that, oh, if I want a career in this kind of thing, I can do it, but it hasn't become a non-negotiable value. And this is why we really advocate for curriculum change, which is invisible. You don't need to ask students or industry whether we should teach structural safety. You don't talk about, should we be teaching certain concepts of fire safety. You don't put this as an option. So I think colleges teaching curriculum that is fit for the purpose of ecological and social balance should, I think, not even be an option. It's too late to make the fate of the planet a hobby.
You agree? So how do we do that? How do we make it more?
Yeah, I see some kind of pitfall that that universities say, yeah, we do it, and it's more greenwashing, what we call it, at companies. That if we want to speed up, that they say that they come up with policies and management talks and said, yeah, we do it. So I think we should prevent that as well. But give the bottom-up initiative, find your ambassadors and make it a talk that you cannot ignore it. It's one of our human rights. We have to work on it. So, and I think we really need to start at the core of your university with your teachers, with the researchers, and then let it grow throughout the university. And I think that's of course, time is an issue, but I think it's also a matter of priorities. Okay, I will write one article less, and I'm in the position to make these choices, and I will spend my time on these challenge-based learning activities. So that's also a matter of choosing your own, following your own gut and feeling to, this is the thing I want to do. So I think with us here all together, I think we can make it start the change within the universities, and I think we're already doing a great job if I see how many hands are raised and you cooperate with society. But then you find your ambassadors, and then with all these agreements in your backpack, go to your management, and then from the bottom up, I think we really should make that change happen.
Are there good examples today we can refer to, or that you know about? Your own institution, some were given, like you do have projects, but are there some universities that really stand out as a reference, maybe?
Can I say something before I answer that?
Yes.
Okay. It's just that going back to my university at Plymouth, we started this program in 2005. And what surprised us, and it's quite a big university, about 3,000 staff, I think, 2,500 staff. What surprised us, it's a whole university program. We were going to work from faculty to faculty over a period of 5 years to begin with to introduce the sustainability ideas. What surprised us that no one at any point, no academic, no department, no faculty said, what's this got to do with us? Nobody said that. Nobody said, well, isn't this some kind of agenda, political agenda you're trying to foist on us or something? Nobody said that, and this is more than 15 years ago. So we were surprised as a team that people were curious, or somewhere between curious and enthusiastic. And people would come to our team and say, we want to be part of this. How can you help us get up to speed on this sustainability agenda? So that was some years ago. And I think the awareness now is such that you're pushing at an open door, or you should be, unless you're in a very reactionary university, and hope you're not. And so there's all to play for. And you just need to show some leadership, and we could talk about that maybe, how to After that, make that potential mean something. That wasn't what you asked, was it?
No, but it was a follow-up of what we were discussing before. Yeah. And probably it's a good example that you've been given now.
Yeah.
Like what happened in 2005, you started with a project, transdisciplinary, and you had support and it worked.
Yeah.
Do we know other examples of institutions or perhaps cooperations with Ashoka or others? That's
Maybe also a nice question for the audience, because they raised a lot of hands.
Okay. Who wants to participate? Yeah.
Okay, I'm from ICN Business School in Nancy, France. And as of this year, we are, as professors, we are to fill out a syllabus that indicates to what degree we integrate each of the SDGs in our module. And so we have to tick it off, and we have to say not at all or not yet. There's a nuance between the different answers, and then when we do it, obviously, when it comes to data collection for any report, self-assessment report, the people who are putting that together will come to those who have ticked it off and say, send us an example. Can you extrapolate? So it really forces you to think. And if you're not doing it now, maybe you'll do it the next time. And so we'll see what that, but I'm just saying, I'm not sure if it's the best practice. We'll see what impact it has.
Who is linking SDGs to curriculum? Are there other universities doing that? Yeah, there are a couple. Yeah, okay. Not that many yet. Good or bad, or you don't know? What do you think? Is it useful to start thinking about, I mean, I work with a lot of companies and they do it all. I mean, so they match their targets with SDGs, yeah? Yeah, we're coming back to you in a minute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So actually, I know this also from some Portuguese universities who are doing this ticking off. And unfortunately, I'm a skeptic about this change towards really transforming then the content or the approach, also the teaching approach itself. It feels a little more, okay, my topic is a little bit related to this and this SDG, and then it's done. But really then bringing some transformative change to the classroom or the way we are then teaching or dealing with the topic and engaging the students in a different way, I do not see that happening. But it is nice in the report, and you can do beautiful charts.
I'm going back to the, yeah, okay, thank you. I will come back. Your reaction I'm going to stay here for a while. Your reaction on what you heard so far from the audience now.
Yeah, I feel I have to, I invited the audience, but I think on the one hand, it's good you start thinking, although it's ticking boxes, it makes you think. And maybe next year you are a step ahead. But on the other hand, it's also, you can squeeze in what you're already doing in one way or the other, and then, okay, I tick the boxes, and we not change a lot. So there's, I think, yeah, both ways is, I would not consider it as the best practice, but it is a practice to start moving forward at least. But of course, it does not feel that you really believe that people are changing their practice. So that's the downside of it.
There's one reaction here. I'm going to take.
Yes, thank you. I think we don't have any more time left for ticking boxes. The urgency was clearly pointed out. And if it's true, I think there's a confusion between multi or interdisciplinarity, which is many disciplines. It's adding meters to your dashboard, but we still don't see through the front window of the car. And that is transcending your discipline, making sense of life. And I join what Renate has said. Those initiatives where learners leave the classroom and learn together what kind of society they want and how they can help bring about, that is the lens that we have to add. And it happens in Oikos, it happens in green offices. University of Toronto gives people credits for joining a green office. I think this is the good examples we should be looking for and not the box ticking.
That's spoken from the heart, huh?
Yeah.
Green offices, we heard that too, also yesterday. Yes.
I work for University of Applied Sciences, and we created a master on circular economy, fundamentally based on transitioning in organization. So it's fully practice-based, and then combined with leadership. So 40% of our curriculum is, giving meaning to your actions and making impact. So that's the only thing that counts. And we see wonderful effects in our education. But to be honest, we do this, but I see this type of education a lot in universities of applied sciences. But I think there's not a lot of publications in this field because it's not the style of what these teachers are used to. It's for me, for example, I'm a curriculum designer, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, I do this, but the only reason for me to publish is because I think we have something wonderful here, but I really have to push myself out of my comfort zone, put in my own time to create this. And that's why I'm here. But I know that there are lots and lots of teachers in universities of applied sciences that work interdisciplinary, work practice-based, work with their feet in society, where students are invited to give meaning and create the future they really want. It's just hard to find them.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing, because we do not have to forget we are in a change process. And of course, I want to push all the students out of the classroom and go do something useful and meaningful in society. But we're not there yet. So we also have to, at some point, ticking boxes is making sense for some people, and in others, they are going outside, these students are going outside the classroom. So you also have to look in what situation is our university or University of Applied Sciences to make steps. We cannot be the front runner of all times and just run and run and run and leave the rest behind. So you need to catch up with what's happening and going on in your own university. And that's why I appreciate ticking the boxes even.
Yeah, okay. So building on that, I would just say that we need to be cognizant, we need to be aware that every university is in a different place. And there's some, as we know, are way out ahead, doing all this wonderful stuff, and some haven't even started. So how did the universities way out ahead get there? It was a journey, it was a learning journey over years probably. I know we have this issue of urgency, but we have to put in place as many support mechanisms as we can, resources we can, to allow people to make this journey. And if, I don't know if you've looked at the little PowerPoint I did, which you can find on your dashboard, but I've done a PowerPoint for this conference where you'll see some models showing steps in the journey, if you like. And I think, if you take the SDGs, okay, some universities will respond to that in a reductionist way. They'll sort of tick them off, bang, 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 but not actually see the whole picture. Others will see as a challenge, much more holistic, integrated challenge, and try to put it right across the disciplines, have disciplines working together and so on, do something much more imaginative. So it's the whole thing is about learning. Universities are not known as learning organizations, but they need to be now. They're teaching organizations, they're research organizations. They don't see themselves as learning organizations. The idea of the learning organization came out of business, not out of higher education. Universities now need to go through a learning process. And if you look at those universities which are really at the head of the game of this, they have gone through a learning process, organizational learning. So I just want to make that point. Yeah.
Thanks. You wanted to respond as well?
Yes, thanks. I think one additional aspect that we could consider to add energy and speed in this whole process is the process of politicizing sustainability on campuses. I think this is an extremely depoliticized space, at least from what I've heard. Students are no longer engaged in anything meaningful in terms of politics on campus. So I'll give you an example of what we are trying to some degree in India, and we want to strengthen this. So we've been working for many years with individual colleges to pilot test different lesson plans and curriculums which have invisible integration of concepts of sustainability, of social justice, of climate crisis, etc. And through those experiences, we advocated to the board of studies of one of the universities in India. So the way the structure works in India is that you have these university board of studies which govern the curriculum for about 50 to 60 campuses. So if you can do top bottom, which means from the bottom experience, you advocate for change. And if you can get the change accepted at the university level, and it then trickles down into other campuses, but at the same time, what I think should be tried is the more maverick, the more subversive teachers can help politicize this issue by supporting student action to say, hey, listen, there's this new curriculum that you now have. There are other universities in other parts of the world that have a curriculum that is fit for the era that we're living in. Why don't we demand that we are actually taught this, not just tick boxed it, but we want this to come into our classrooms. And I think the explosive combination of mandates plus a politically active and galvanized student population can really accelerate some of this change that we're looking for. And just one example, the curriculum of this university, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but this just happened a couple of days ago. The Board of Studies approved a curriculum in India which did not have a single mention of the word climate crisis or climate change. And now, through some, I think, system error, the curriculum has about 85 references to climate change across the 5 years. And now they must teach it.
Error.
Yeah. So, which we advocated for, actually.
What do you think of that idea, to politicize it more? And is that an option also within European institutions? Or is that a difficult thing to do? Because I think it's true. I think the students are no longer that much involved. And nor are the universities, perhaps, I don't know.
Well, I mean, our intellectual legacy is to see knowledge in objectivist terms, as if it's value-free, and it never is, of course. But that's sort of deeply residing in the academic mindset to some extent, that this stuff is value-free. But these issues, sustainability issues, always have political and ethical dimensions. And my response to any criticism of looking at this material in the universities is, if we can't look critically at these issues in universities, then where can we? There should be sites of critical debate where all opinion is up for critical examination, including mine and yours. And so I think that's an answer which has to run, and that's my defense, if you like.
Okay, thanks. You want to respond on it?
I think I do not have a really thorough response, but I do agree that we should encourage students to be critical and leave it up to them for what type of party, left or right wing. But we should have the critical discussion and feel the room to have this discussion without being, because I think there's also a role for the media that they immediately pop up and have all kinds of responses to that. So that's the tricky part. What we saw happening, for example, with the Corona crisis, that researchers and professors were, they were assaulted. They were they were not safe more in their own houses. So that's, I think, makes it a bit more tricky to also.
But I think what Vivek was referring to is should universities take up a role in society and make a statement influencing politics in others? Should we do that more explicit?
Yes. I mean, we're all actors in society, and if we do nothing, then things get worse. To put it bluntly. There's a new organization that's just started in Britain, which is born out of frustration, and we're going back to urgency, if you like, the slowness of change in academia, and it's called, let me get this right, Faculty for a Future. Faculty for a Future, you could check it out. And it's trying to It's trying to bring together all the academics who are frustrated and saying, you know, there's not enough happening. We need to work more quickly. We need to get things happening in terms of research and teaching and so on. And it's a network of support for those academics who want to move faster. And just quickly, by the way, whilst I've got the microphone on this, last year I was co-editing a special issue of a journal called Frontiers in Sustainability. The title of the journal was called, of the special issue was Repurposing Universities for Sustainable Human Progress. Okay, Repurposing Universities for Sustainable Human Progress. It's all open access. We've got 24 papers in on really interesting papers on what universities are doing, or what the problems are, what successes have been, and so on. That went up, and it's had over 100,000 hits, over 100,000 on repurposing universities. So it indicates to me that there's an appetite, there's a hunger for new thinking. So we talked about repurposing yesterday, and this is a key idea which is taking off in higher education now, and in business, for that matter. And also, just one other thing, this Frontiers in Sustainability journal has now got a new call, and it's called, if I remember, Activating Academia. This is a new special issue coming up. The call is still current, so it's really how do we turn academics into activists? Which goes back to your point. That's going to be interesting.
Wow, very useful. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Stefan.
This is recorded, so you can also listen to it afterwards, and so also the references that are made. Yeah.
Actually, what I was also referring to was mainly student politics, actually. But I found it quite surprising that there aren't too many environmental or ecological, clubs on campuses that really do anything beyond just technocratic sort of fixes, of renewable energy and those kinds of things. I think active student ecological politics is relatively absent. I mean, you can hear crickets when you talk about this. So this is what I feel could be a force of real explosive, visceral response to the crisis can come from students if they recognize that they're being, served a curriculum that is not fit for purpose, that actually their contract is being betrayed in a way. And one of the ways in which this could manifest is they can hold accountable the university for its own practices, something that teachers might not be able to do because they have a lot to lose. But students, as the ultimate stakeholder or the beneficiary, can check into what kind of investments the university is making, what kind of endowments does it have, who is controlling the research. These are things that can come from them, and there is less consequences for careers, I guess. So I think the smart teachers would try to stoke student politics on campus to get them to get allies. Okay, listen, I have this curriculum I want to teach. I don't have support from management. Maybe if you demand it, and I'm ready to give it,
I didn't understand the question of your remark before, but I completely agree that we should even put our students to strike if it's necessary and encourage them to do so to make their point, because I think the younger generation has knows of what they want or knows what's going on and how they want. They foresee some changes that are necessary, and they can really help us and push maybe even the university harder than we can as employees of the university, because they are considered the client. So that's the.
We had like Rethinking Economics started from teachers and students. So but it's 12 years ago or more or less. Yeah. And we had protests also from Greta Thunberg and what these marches. But I remember that my students were watching out of the window, looking down to these 16-year-olds and saying, "Oh, poor, they don't know what the real world is about." So which is like, okay, they do. So it's not always that easy. Yeah. Stephen, you want to add something?
Well, why are you taking the microphone over? I'm just going to. You may know this, but I mean, the students are really getting very active. So in the UK, we have students organising for sustainability, which the title says it all. That's a branch of the National Union of Students, which links to some of the student organisations. In the workshop I went to yesterday, Oikos and Green Office. So there's an international student body now working on this. Also in the UK, we have Teach the Future. It's really interesting. It's like a pressure group on both for schools and universities trying to get this changes going. So I think the students do have a lot of power, and I think they're beginning to realize it.
Okay, very good. One, but then, because I have another.
Thank you. My name is Therese Conrad. I'm from Leuphana University, and I have to get rid of something from my chest, and it relates to I'm wondering what provokes the students. You just highlighted them as change agents, that they do action, and I think what motivates them is that they have a vision. And what I heard before is that we discussed we have to see what's possible at our university to make steps. And I believe in the power of questions. And I think it's a different question to ask what's possible at my university or asking where do I want my university or my course to be. And I mean, this belongs to futures thinking. It's a difference if I forecast or if I backcast. And I think it's visions that are moving us forward. And I think this is what moves students. And I think this is what should move us. So I think Leuphana University does already great stuff, but I wasn't occupied what's happening elsewhere. I knew I had a vision for the course, and that's what I'm pursuing right now.
So the importance of visions. What's your vision of the future university? How should it look like? Yeah, you still have it somewhere. The university of the future, how should it look like? As an almost final question, because we have 10 minutes left. It's a very big question.
It's a very big question, and I think there should be something to choose for students and also for staff. And it's also because we're still in a change process, but so it's maybe mid-future. But that you also rewarded as a student and as staff, that you are participating in these societal challenges, and that you cooperate with others than people from the university, and maybe even with universities for applied sciences, vocational education. I think in later on, if you become a professional, you also cooperate with these people. So I think it's good to already work on that. But there are also people that are really like the fundamental research. So we should not throw away that part. So there should be, I think, something to choose, and that it's not more out of the system, or it's without credits, but it's just part of the system, and that the whole system changes gradually in a certain way. I personally do not believe that we should. Of course, if it could be possible, that it would be very nice to have one big shebang and then we have a new university. That's not the case. So I think these gradual moves is what I would foresee in the future.
Okay, thank you for that.
You want to go?
Oh, okay. I think it's important to understand what this is all about. Even go back to yesterday's keynote and things that the panelists and Kate Rayworth were saying. You know, what are you asking for? What are we asking for here? And I think we're agreed that the old paradigm, if you like, the instrumentalist, mechanistic, reductionist, positivist kind of way of doing and thinking is no longer serving us. In fact, it's doing us a disservice in informing educational policy and practice. So the answer to that, the antidote, if you like, is one which is more holistic, inclusive, systemic, ecological, and so on. All these things actually have the beginnings of an alternative paradigm, which can deal with complexity, can address complexity and the issues ahead. And time is running out, but a lot of my work has been trying to elaborate what that means and what would it mean for doing things in a more ecological, systemic, humanistic, and in almost loving way. I'm using that word intentionally. What would it mean? So I've written a lot of stuff on that, so you can check out my website if that's of interest. It's sustainableeducation.org.uk. But I think a key idea here, some time ago, I came up with this word which you won't find in the English language, which is response-ability. Response-ability. And how do we become more able to respond fully to the challenges here, but at an individual level, but in institutional level? How can we increase our responsibility? And that's an open question for us all, I think.
Thank you.
Eddy, do you have a magic wand question after this, or do we get, because then I don't want to say the things that I was going to say with a magic wand. Okay, there isn't. So I was
Thank you, it's
dreaming
easy.
last night. Yeah, okay. So I would say for me, the vision of the University of the Future, first of all, would feel much more like a parliament where you have student bodies influencing the curriculum directly through debate, where it's co-created for sure, which means that the authorities have to live with less power from here on, more distributed power. And another thing that I would advocate for is a curriculum or a way of pedagogy that is also influenced by the unborn, the future, which of course is an abstract idea, but there are communities, peoples who are right now hurting. They're hurting from the consequences of some of the practices that university is indirectly, enabling by providing people to business. So for example, if you have a business school curriculum, in the curriculum design should be maybe people from the place where Coca-Cola extracts its water from. They should be designing the curriculum as well to look at the curriculum of consequences and not just actions. So I think this co-design needs to be done with society as well. Society should be able to influence curriculum in colleges because a lot of it is public money, right? Why shouldn't I be able to influence the curriculum? And finally, I would say the University of the Future would not invest any of its money from into transnational corporations. I would say that universities should be supporting the cooperative movement of stopping this support of unearned income that is the basis of the growth mindset, the capitalist mindset. And I think universities have a strong, moral sort of compass that it can set, saying that we need to support more cooperative businesses, more cooperative economics, rather than more capitalist economics. And it can do it by the way it spends its money or invests its money. So that would be my vision for the University of the Future. Yeah.
Before, because we have 3 minutes left, and there is one question which I like. There are a lot of change makers here in the room, I think probably all of you. We also may need some help. So what do change makers need to empower them to make the change? So from your point of view, what can you tell them to help them in their quest?
Accept your own courage. I think it's also good to have these communities like this, to talk with each other, to talk to peers, to exchange ideas, and to every now and then you can be angry and frustrated and share also this amongst peers, and then get fresh energy to continue. We did a nice study amongst corporate social responsibility managers in businesses. They are also standalone. They do not have any money, any department, any responsibility in that sense, but they do want to make change. And they really need each other between the different organizations to keep going. And because I think it's a long way we still have to go, and we need each other, and cherish your peers in that sense, and learn from each other, and continue with each other.
Thank you. Two of you want to give some advice, support for the change makers in the room?
I think be encouraged because the ground is shifting. It really is. As I say, I've been involved in this for more than 30 years, and things are shifting much more fast now than they were ever. So you can get on board and shift it some more if you like, but be encouraged because there's a lot happening. Within an institution, it's a matter of finding your allies as a first step. It really is, even if it's one other person. Because if you're isolated, you can't do much. And then increase that group and develop what I would call a collective intelligence around sustainability in the university. What's happening at all levels, as far as you can tell. I mean, universities, as you know, are organized like this. There's silos. So your job as a change maker is to do this. Make those connections across. Not just across the university, but outside too, with the community, make these connections. I mean, really, it all comes down to extension and connection, almost everything we've been talking about. And it can be done. And the more you do it, the more you can go further because university is a system, and you can use systems thinking to get systems change, if you like. And that's something we did at Plymouth. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have advice for change makers. I think change makers are already doing a lot. I think I have wishes for change makers, nurturing environments. And one of my wishes is that somehow the university supports without economic consequences for teachers and students to be involved in being change making. You know, if the change making requires you to spend more time in the community, maybe take a gap year to do, you know, local political work, there should be no economic consequences. I think we can liberate a lot of change making. I think everybody's a change maker, and like one of the participants was saying, that there are many more people who are not here right now who are all change makers. And I think we need more nurturing environments for them. And secondly, what I would say is if we can work on the mindset of local political economic actors to say that instead of emphasizing grades for students, if you can give signals saying that we want change-making students, you know, in our organizations, then there will be a lot more interest in universities not producing, you know, just servants of the industry, but they will create and foster this kind of change-making capacities, because very often it's what is demanded is what gets supplied. So I think if we can work on the mindset of local political economic actors to emphasize change-making skills in their students that they will hire, I think this could really unleash a lot of good forces. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to us. Renate, Steven, and Vivek. And they also deserve a present. What is that? Okay, this ends the keynotes. There is a break now. There is a first workshop starting, I think 10:30. I don't have
10:20.
10:20. So we have 20 minutes break. There is a lunch break between noon and 1 o'clock. There is another workshop from 1 to 2. And then you move to different locations. So you enrolled for different workshops, which are somewhere else. So at 2 o'clock here in the auditorium, we expect you back because the guides who will take you to the different places will be here. So after the lunch and after the first workshop, 1 to 2, you come back here in the auditorium and your guides will be present. I have a personal question at the moment. There is a pension plan workshop this afternoon where you play a finance game, old monetary system, new monetary system. It's called pension plan. We only have a few people that participate, but we need a bit more. So a bit, but or we don't do it, or we have to. It's okay. Can I? For me, it's one of the fundamental changes. It's our monetary system because it impacts our economic system. So we play that game this afternoon, but I think you're enrolled. Those who did not enroll for the workshop, for any workshop this afternoon, if you're interested, come to see me, then I know if I have more candidates. If not, you stay in the workshop you're in now. But okay, so that's so those who didn't enroll yet still have to choose. Let me know. Have a nice workshop this morning and see you at lunch.